Hi guys, today on Stu Speaks With, we have bass player extraordinaire, Mr. Jason Green with us. Jason, thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
Jason has played on numerous albums, session player, educator, brilliant teacher. He's taught for COPA, he's taught for Academy of Sound Engineering, he's taught at the National School of Arts, and doing rock school at the moment as well. He played on Note for Note for 8 years.
Yeah,
that's a long time.
That's a lot of sockings.
He's done Dancing with the Stars. He's done The Voice. He's been there, done it. And thank you for giving up your time to come and chat with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Let's start with your musical history.
Okay.
When did you start playing bass? Were you just a bass player?
I
always say just a bass player.
I believe the term. No, that's fine. I started playing in 1990. I believe the date was September 1st, which seems arbitrary to know, but what had happened was I was in standard 8 at the time, grade something.
Grade 10?
Yeah, grade 10, there we go, thank you. And I wasn't fitting in at school, but 3 or 4 weeks before, a friend had introduced me to Metallica. And I'd listened to the And Justice for All album, backwards and forwards. And a natural thing when you're 12, 13 years old is, okay, I'm going to be a musician, because everyone wants to rock out, and so the night before that, there was a school talent competition, and some guy was there kicking a ball and card tricks and blah, blah, blah. But a band came on stage and did at the stage, I suppose, amazing, but possibly very bad version of Smoke on the Water.
Okay.
And I had a defining moment. The girls went crazy. And that was it for me, because when you're 12 years old, that's the most important thing for you. So I just saw the absolute adoration. I guess it's like when most people saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, that this is what I want.
Okay.
And so the next day I arrived at band practice, because we started the band literally overnight.
Immediately, of course, yeah.
Somebody, there's always that one guy in your school that's dad used to be a muser, so he's got a drum kit and a thing. So I got there last, and they said, cool, we've got drums, we've got guitar, I'm going to sing, you be the bass player. And I was like, cool, what's bass? So I know some people have a very deep stirring, the bass came to me in a dream, I just got into it because I was there late.
You got it.
Perhaps my mom didn't take me there on time. And so I got a bass. And I just, it was easier to pick up because, my fingers are hardly small. So the guitar neck was always clumsy.
Okay.
So it was easier to pick up songs. And that is for me always a weird thing about bass. It's very easy to pick up and be an average rock bass player who just plays low notes. But for me, the lifelong pursuit of bass and where it's going is, man, there's just so many places it's going now. Techniques and soloing and sounds and tones that it's easy to pick up, but any instrument is very difficult to master. So, I still practice at least 3 hours a day if I can.
Okay.
I don't know if it shows them up playing, but I really do try.
I bet it does. Even if you don't know it, I bet you it does.
I still believe in that. And I remember something Jacko said that was very important. He says, practice playing something new every day. So a lot of times with my students, till this day, I keep telling them, just jam something. Put on a drum machine, put on a metronome, put on something that's mechanical to help you with your timing, and just play, because that's where you really come out. That's your sound, that's your groove, and if it's terrible or if it's good, no one else will have it like you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I carried on through high school. And
what was that first bass you had? Do you remember?
It was a Hondo P bass.
Okay.
And I remember I tried to reinstall strings, and I overcompensated the nut, and it stripped.
Okay.
And back in 1990 in South Africa, luthiers didn't exist.
Yeah.
So somehow with my bass teacher at the time, we put a whole bunch of matchsticks and stuff under the neck, and it kind of made it playable. It's similar to my upright action now. So I was practicing double bass back then, even then. And I remember when we took the neck off, you could see the layers, like the 7 or 8 different layers just in the neck pocket of balsa wood that had been slapped together to make it. But yeah, I kind of wish I still had it, but yeah, c'est la vie. And then from there I got a Hondo, a Hohner. I started on a Honda, I went to a Hohner. I think it was an H thing.
Not the headless.
No,
jobby.
unfortunately not. I think those are worth quite a lot. No, it was a PJ bass
Okay.
that I'd also made fretless after a Jacko, like every bass player did the first time they had Jacko. And I also wish I still had. So if someone has a maple neck PJ bass Hohner, I think it's called the PJ bass.
What
It's
colour?
It's black, white pickguard, maple neck with brown fret inserts. I'll buy it from you.
Okay. He'll pay 50 grand. Yeah.
Stu will be overseeing the account. You can contact him about that. And so I was really directionless in high school, but my folks had a good bargaining tool. If I messed up or did anything wrong, we're going to take the bass away. So I managed to get through high school with straight C's, but just because I really had to.
Straight C's for a muso is very good.
Yeah. But halfway through my matric year, friends of ours I was playing the band with were studying at the Pretoria Tech. It was a jazz course, and what I knew about jazz was dangerous.
Yeah.
But I enrolled, and I started studying with a teacher called Mark Doobie.
Yep.
And I bluffed my way into the audition. I remember a local bass player who's still around, Llewellyn Jeffrey, taught me the melody for Girl from Ipanema and When the Saints Go Marching In. And in my tech audition, I knew a little bit of theory, so I could blag my way through the theory exam. And then I just played those melodies, and there was, I figured I got in, I must have been good. Turns out I was the only bass player that year. So, yeah, I think they took me because the other option was bad. Or no bass players, which with the way I played jazz was probably better. And then I started learning, and I noticed a different thing with the more old school jazzier style. I was studying there with very well respected at the time. A lot of them have passed on. Teachers like Ricky Annandale, the pianist, Johnny Faree was my one ensemble teacher.
Oh,
Kevin
wow.
Davidson, who's still very active in teaching. Mark Doobie, of course, who's now at UNISA, I believe.
Yep.
And
You're very lucky to have those guys.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And you know what they taught me? Firstly, the music industry is hard. So for me to get their approval or just to look like they didn't hate my guts, I had to work really hard. And that's the industry we're in. You have to really exert yourself to be ahead of the pack. Because there's so many musicians, there's so many music schools. Every musician has to do that little bit extra to stand out in the crowd.
Yeah.
Or, yeah. So they would do things like, I remember I had to join the show band because I could read a bit of music. So I went to Johnny Faree and I said, unfortunately, I won't be able to play anymore. He says, that's great. I need a bass player who knows what the hell he's doing.
Okay.
Now it makes perfect sense. But back then, I had two choices. Cry myself to sleep, which I did a little bit of. But I stopped after the second day. And it put steel in my spine to work harder.
Yeah.
So I would be the guy at the library, always checking magazines, reading up on gear, reading up on lessons, checking out the books. I even check out the trombone books because they're in bass clef just to get some melodic ideas.
Yeah.
Check out all the Ray Brown and Ron Carter books on walking bass. And slowly I got back into his band and did some gigs with him outside of the tech after a few years.
Okay.
But that really showed me that you need to be hungry in this industry. You know what? The world at large doesn't think musicians work hard. Let's be honest. They really do think we just lie in bed and then we go outside and then
Get
we
up at 7 p.m. and
yes, exactly, or 6 p.m. if it's like an early night and it was like coffee. But we don't just go to club and have a bra put on our mic stand. Like people I've seen certain musicians have that at their gigs. It looks. And then everybody looks at that and goes, that's what I want. But in between that, the slog and the constant improvement. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, styles of music change yearly, if not monthly in some cases. You really have to keep getting on top of learn to play a little bit of keyboard bass. I used to teach basic keyboards at Academy of Sound Engineering. And the people used to hate me because all they wanted to do was program beats.
Yeah.
And I kind of said to them, but a producer has to be able to, or a songwriter, play the three notes so you can hear your harmonies, or you can make yourself so much more versatile the more you know.
Yeah.
And so that I guess is what those guys taught me, is that no one's going to give you anything for free. Work for it. Look, I'm not going to lie, there is luck. Sometimes you'll get on a show like...
everyone needs a break or gets a break. Yeah.
Somebody might find you, but for every one naturally talented person, everybody else has to work hard.
Yeah.
I'm not naturally talented, I just work hard.
Okay, that's I have this conversation with a lot of people about the whole talent versus working hard thing.
Yeah.
And it's good to
Yes.
good to hear that, and I hear that often, and I fall in the same category.
Yeah.
I'm not naturally talented at all, but I'm not a great musician, but I've worked my ass off. So it's really cool to hear that.
Absolutely. I heard a quote from Bill Evans that said that he knows that there are a lot of naturally talented people that and they all seem lucky and they all seem to be discovered early. He says, and Bill Evans, a pianist, not the sax player, he says, in his experience, those people almost always burn out sooner than later. There are exceptions to every rule. And while we're on that, I have 3 rules of music. The first one is, if it sounds good, it is good. The second one is, don't be a jerk. And the third one is review 1 and 2. So for every rule of music, you can't do this with that. For example, the whole swung funk thing came about with DJs kind of just merging straight and swing feels. Oh, but you're not supposed to do that? Well, unless you've learned to play that feel, you're going to not play in that genre. And I mean, the list goes on. Jazz was wrong. Orchestral musicians hated jazz because why are you playing notes that aren't in the scale? Why are you doing this? Hip hop was wrong. Country music was wrong. And they're all, for everyone going, that's never going to work, there's someone making $1 million going, I guess it did. My bad.
And that's also nice hearing that coming from someone like you who is completely formally schooled. So the rules are, there are no rules. However, you should, that old cliche, you should learn the rules and then break them.
Look, this is Facebook is a cestering goldfish pool of opinions on whether you should study and whether you shouldn't. My opinion is this: you can buy a very expensive BMW and drive it very fast, or even a supercar. Say you can buy an AMG Mercedes with the gull wings. I saw one on my way here and I was very impressed. But if you haven't learned how to really use that car, you're really only going to drive it like your average Volkswagen. Not that that's a bad car either. TM trademark. But if you go for driving courses, it opens up a whole new thing. So most musicians don't need to be trained. You're absolutely right. You don't need to study a lot to play Save Tonight, for example. However, if you want to play beyond Save Tonight, and I mean, if I look at my schedule this week, I'm doing an upright gig, a jazz gig tomorrow. I'm doing a Jewish wedding on Thursday night, and I'm doing a barnyard show on Saturday. So none of those have the same bags. None of those have the same groove. The pocket's different. Some use clicks, some don't. But I like to give all 3 of those genres the equal amount of respect they deserve. And so, it's just up to the musician to keep himself educated.
Let's talk more about the education side of things. What's your tell us about your teaching history a bit.
I went straight from the the Pretoria Technikon. I graduated in 1995. I know a lot of you weren't born. Yes, let's move on. I was very young though. I was 17 when I graduated. So, if that's anything, I think my parents maybe just wanted me out the house early. So, whatever. But the point is, I was 17 when I graduated high school. I was 20 when I graduated from Pretoria Tech. It was only a 3-year course then. And what I'd gotten there is, as I said earlier, you've got to be hungry. But I also noticed, man, there's some things that hunger is not good enough with. If I go, for example, to a lesson on arpeggios, I don't just want to know, the shapes. Okay, we're done here. I want to know why I know those shapes. So I went on to the National School of the Arts in 1993. And there was no syllabus back then for contemporary music. But they had started, at that time was called the NQF, not the NQF, the NRC, NOR, National Orientation Certificate, National Intermediate, and then the National Senior Certificates for music. And we literally were given a syllabus guide. This is what you need to know. And we literally had to flesh that out. And myself and my partner at the time, teaching partner, we were all given things. You need to write a bass book. You need to write a history book. You need to find something about Fats Waller to teach these guys. And so it was rough and tumble for the first year or so.
That's quite a daunting task.
Exactly.
Wow.
And I'm not going to lie. I was like this the night before the class. Okay, tomorrow I'm teaching on this. But a lot of students that I taught in that time still come back to me, because one of the classes I taught, and to me this is the most important music class, is I taught something called music appreciation. And all I would do is, I've always been a CD nerd, so I just always collected music. I take in 2 songs a lesson, and they'd have to sit down and listen to what's the instrumentation, what's the style, who's playing the solo, what happens after solo, how many bars is this? Because I wanted to teach people to listen, not just hear. If you know the difference. Because you hear, for example, they say a mother, someone who doesn't have a baby hears it crying, but a mum listens. What type of crying is that? You understand? So I try to apply that to music, and a lot of people, quite a lot of working musicians will come up to me and say they still remember those classes because I introduced them to fresh new music, and I got a lot of
stuff that they'd never listened to normally.
Exactly. I got a lot of people going, oh no. But you know what? When you teach, you always teach to the 10% of the class that want to learn, because there's generally between
Is it that bad?
In a lot of classes. And in music, unfortunately, you would think that there'd be only committed people, but a lot of people aren't meant to be musicians, and that's okay. But they're there and they're doing something, so they may as well try. Anyway, so we wrote the syllabus, and in the back of my mind, I always wanted to have something that the student could have a hard copy of what he learned. So when he went home, he could go, oh, that's what the major scale looks like. Here's the permutation exercises we're working on. And then from there, I went on and helped launch another private music school called Campus of Performing Arts. Well, it was first called Performing Arts Campus for a year, but then we had to change the name, and I was there for 8 years. We did a lot of very, very good things. I think I refined my teaching style there. I was, even now with rock school, people say, oh, so you taught bass. No, I taught music theory, I taught history of music, I taught music business. I taught the ensemble classes. So
you had a lot of kids going through that, eh?
For a while we had well over 400 enrolled students. It was thing. And I mean, I'm very proud of a lot of the bass players that I've taught over the years that are professionals. People like, off the top of my head, Greg van Kerkhoff, Steve Dennett, Kevin from the Blue, Gunshot Blue, shucks, I forget his surname.
I know you're talking about.
Frank Magonjwa.
Look at Steve Dennett now. I mean, he's touring the world.
Exactly. Now, a lot of my students, I've taught them a lot of things, but one of the most important things is always respect the music. So, for example, I made a joke on one of my Facebook things about, I'm going to play Simply the Best again this weekend. But when I played Simply the Best, I played it right. I played it with the right tempo, feel, and groove. And those are things that I really want to emphasize with all musicians. Because you know what, anybody can go onto YouTube these days and go, oh, okay, here's the latest up and down slap and lick, or here's a gospel chops thing, or here's a Slayer bass line. That's easy enough. What people aren't teaching a lot of is musicality. And you know what, the older I get, the more I realize musicality is gaps and space between the notes. I'll share a bit more of this later, on how a note can make something
on that note, Jason is going to give us a free lesson. You can click on the links in the description below for that lesson.
And so then after COPA, I moved on to Academy of Sound Engineering, where I just taught music theory and keyboards. And I mean, these days, bass players, if you want a bit of advice from me, you want to stay ahead of the pack, learn upright bass, learn electric bass, learn fretless, and learn keyboards. Because so many bass lines are going to be like this. Now, I'd never take my keyboard playing into the public realm. I don't feel it's good enough. But I've spent a lot of time then working on synth sounds and effects and stuff so that I can get close enough. So these are just things that I keep telling people. Always remember, there's 30 of you in this room. 3 of you will be employed. Which 3 will it be? The hungriest 3. Not the most talented. And let's also get this out the way. Talent doesn't equal results. Talent equals an easier step forward.
It gives you you're 10 meters ahead in the race, but you won't necessarily win.
Exactly. Talent might give you a bit of a head start, but it doesn't guarantee you finish. And so now, currently, I'm an international examiner for Rock School.
Cool.
So they're a British-based course, and what I like about them is it's a bare minimum syllabus. So they send you, you can download them now, but you get a book and a CD, or you can download the tracks and stuff. And it's songs Plus, it's lessons, it's scales, but most importantly, there are ear-based lessons. And I cannot emphasize as musicians how we need to train our ears.
Yeah.
So they'll spend a lot of time on playing phrases and learning to play it back. And mimicking phrases and being able to play something rhythmically only and something melodically only. And that, in my opinion, is what puts it above a lot of other internet-based or a lot of other smaller music courses. Is sure, all of them have good songs. All of them are going to teach you to play a major scale at some point. But musicality, note lengths, groove, listening to the drummer, those are all things that have to be reminded because they're not sexy concepts. Sexy is fast slapping or shredding, but you don't get hired for that.
100%.
So
let me interrupt quickly. I hope you guys can hear us over this thunderstorm. We're just going to carry on. Typical Joburg thunderstorm.
It's a Gene Simmons bass solo from the God of Thunder.
Let's talk about your gear quickly.
Okay.
So what's your current guitar amp set? What's your favorite rig at the moment?
All right.
And does it depend on what gig you play?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's important to have more than one option tone-wise. Now, guitarists have been doing this for years. I mean, your average working guitarist will have a telly, a Strat, maybe something with humbuckers, and a good acoustic, sometimes a nylon string too. And a lot of times bass players would just show up. I know on some of the groups on Facebook, it's very popular just to have a P bass and a pick. And that's great. You know what, a P bass for me, I hate the sound on its own, but nothing cuts to a mix like a P bass. But if you want a more refined tone, you're not going to get it on the P bass. So for me, I use an Ibanez Groove Line. This is my main 5-string. And I mean, I've been through a lot of basses. I've played Warwicks, I've played Music Mans, I've played Fenders. I've played a few other types of Ibanez's.
You'll see all these instruments in the Gear City video that we're going to do. Again, click in the link in the description below. And then amp-wise?
Amp-wise, I'm using a Warwick LWA 1000. Now I like this because it's a 2-channel amp, so either you can have 2 different presets and switch between the 2, or you can plug 2 different basses. Oftentimes I'll put my double bass in one. You can also run it 2 different instruments at the same time. You can put keyboard bass in the bottom one, and you don't have to mute the 2. What I like about it is it's not very colored. So it doesn't come out with that big scoop sound that some of the amps like. It sounds so amazing on its own, but almost always disappears in the mix. And I'll talk about frequencies and stuff at later stage. And my other bass is an SX, which I call my O bass, because I actually bought it from you because it hung here for a while. It was their top of the line one, and no one wants to pay that type of money for it. All I did change was the pickups. I put the Mazos in, and the reason I call it my O bass is because it sounds so good. It's got a great neck and a great body, and it sounds like a real good jazz bass. And people often go, "Oh man, that's amazing! What is it?" Oh. Almost without fail, you know, and you can see them wanting to go, actually it doesn't sound so good now that I think about it, but it just proves as musicians we need to listen with our ears, not with our eyes. You know,
100%.
I mean, how many people will walk in here and go, I want that guitar, okay, but play it. No, I just want it because you know, Slash played it, or
it comes you need a lot of maturity to reach that point.
And I mean, when I grew up, all I wanted was a black Area Pro like Cliff Burton used on Master Puppets. Never got one, and I hear they sound rubbish, but it didn't matter at the time. You know, sound was secondary to look.
Absolutely.
And I mean,
And cab-wise?
Cab-wise, mainly I use whatever's provided. If I use my own cab, I have an Aguilar 1x12. I particularly went to that one without the tweeter, simply because I find that the tweeter gets lost when you're standing right by the amp anyway. And also the tweeter really doesn't work well with my upright. So I wanted a tweeterless cab that had a good frequency response in the upper end, but I could still use with a double bass and not worry about that high-end finger noise and the piezo quack that you get from.
Is it the SL?
Yes, it's the SL112.
The lightweight,
That's right.
Okay.
And I mean, the nice thing is this amp is so light that I can virtually take everything, amp and cab in this hand, upright in this hand, if I'm using a double bass. Electric on the back.
Bass players are so lucky.
Yeah. Look, I mean, that's not to say I don't have chronic back problems, which I don't, but
And effect-wise, are you using any effects? Is there anything you use for certain gigs?
It depends. If I use an in-ear only gig, a lot of the theatre shows I did recently, Evita, before that Saturday Night Fever, before that Sister Act and Rocky Horror Picture Show, etc., etc. The theatre shows now are so small, they don't want amps underneath.
Okay.
So I stick to a radial bass bone. Also, it's a 2-channel one. Or I use a Zoom B3N. Now, Zoom has had a bad reputation in the past, being very metallic sounding, but I like the fact that it's got all my effects in one thing. I don't have to go cable hunting, because it always happens.
Yeah, it's a great unit. It does.
It punches far above its price rate, as I say.
Yeah.
You can download new things, and on there, specific things I use it for. I use it mainly for synth sounds and octave sounds, because analog effects, everybody waxes lyrical about the warmth and this, but I guarantee you, the 16-year-old girls don't hear it. The average cell phone user with it, the down to however knows what, doesn't hear it, and no one at the loud gig hears bass anyway. So I like a digital synth effect because it tracks well, and it doesn't glitch as easy.
Okay.
And sure, I'd love to have a boutique board, maybe just with dark glass or angular stuff, but I can't afford it, and I don't have time to. Is this cable wrong? Is it this power
it's not
supply?
practical, especially for someone like you who's, you're on the go all the time in different situations.
And I must emphasize that these days, bass players, get your in-ear rig together, because a lot of corporates, theatre shows, etc., TV shows never want bass amps anywhere near it. So everything, get a good set of in-ears. Don't even have to be the expensive 10 grand ones. I use JBLs that cost R1,000. And they work fine. Or you can invest for ones that are molded to your ears. But make sure that you can get a sound without a cab that sounds good. That a TV producer, a front of house guy can go, oh, there we go. No bass boom, no rumble. Because no matter how much, these are lovely, and I love the sound of the bass of these cabs. Most clubs don't want it. Theatre never wants it. TV never wants it. So get comfortable with just hearing yourself in the in-ears. And a big point of contention, click track. Sorry guys, it's not going away. More and more shows, even the theatre shows, theatre internationally is suffering from dwindling audiences. So the people are now putting things like the brass and the strings on track. There's still a conductor, seeing what's going on stage. But virtually, I'd say 40% of Evita, which is now just finished its run. I performed it in 2017 at the Peter Twin, the Teatro. It's only now finished its run in Australia, and obviously they use different bands in different territories. But 40% of that show was on click track. Plus you must read. So you can tell me that playing to a click and reading and makes you sterile, got no groove. That's all very nice. But I enjoyed paying my rent that month while being sterile and having no groove. Because that's what's required.
That's what's required.
So I can't teach you to be a rock star. I'm not a rock star. If people, oftentimes I say, who have you played with? Well, no one you know. I did a very nice Bidvest corporate, or I did, end of last year I played on the Mzansi TV Awards. So I could say I played with Mafiki Zolo. They wouldn't recognize me in the street because I was just in the house band. So I'm that guy. I'm the anonymous guy that you don't necessarily think of, but you'll hear more than you'll see. And that's what I teach, because becoming a rock star, who knows what it means anymore.
It's over.
It's
nobody
either
cares.
over or
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares, or nobody knows how to make it work. Must you look like Slash? Must you look like Miles Kennedy? Must you look like Justin Bieber? Must you write your own songs? Must you be a girl? These are all things that I can't help you with.
On a final note,
let's.
I normally ask guys their advice on kids trying to get into the industry. Let me ask the question in a different way. From a teaching perspective, what is your advice on kids trying to learn music?
Listen,
and let's briefly talk about the whole YouTube lesson thing.
My thing with learning music is learn it orally first. In other words, if you look at the original way music was passed down via the griots and the traveling bolero players in Spain, it was taught, you got to listen to what I'm playing. So I think going to music school is great. I think YouTube has its place, because one thing I've learned as a teacher is there's different types of learning styles. You get an auditory learning style, you get a visual learning style, and you get a kinesthetic learning style. So auditory means while I'm talking to you, you're picking everything up. Other people have to see it. And the third type, the fidgeters, the musicians, most of the time, are the guys that have to be doing it. And when I was coming up in school, I wasn't particularly interested. And also, I was clever. They could see that, but I just didn't care. And you were just labeled as ADHD, or stop drinking red Kool-Aid, or But the point is, as a teacher and as a learner, find out what your style is. If you're visual, by all means, watch the YouTube things, but you've got to train your ear all the time. Get with a good teacher, but sometimes you think you're with a good teacher and you don't know. So the best way to really learn is, if it's YouTube with a teacher, get out and play as much as you can. Go to a jam session. Learn how to play with a bad drummer. Learn how to play with a good drummer. Learn how to play with one that's in between. Learn how to deal with a grumpy guitarist. Learn how to deal with an angry, disenfranchised singer. You know, because what I'm saying there is actually the third ingredient: people skills.
Yeah.
Because as bass players, we're not the rock stars, so we don't get to be prima donnas. We don't get to throw our bass down and say, clean it up and walk off. We have to pack the gear. We usually own the gear. We usually drive the car. But the point is, if you can learn to navigate in and around people, that'll be a skill that will get you much further. We were talking about it earlier. A lot of working musicians aren't necessarily the best players, but they're the best ones that people like working with.
Yeah.
And as a bass player, you're supposed to make the bass or the band feel good. As a good musician, you're supposed to make other people feel good.
Yeah.
They say the heart of diplomacy, and I guess of bass playing, is telling someone to go to hell and making them look forward to the trip. And that's a lot of what being a musician is about, is navigating, whoa, bad day, good day. Yes, I love the song. It actually sounded terrible, but I'll tell you it sounded great.
Yeah.
Yeah, not throwing your toys out, actually being an approachable person.
Okay.
That's the third thing. But if I can emphasize the main thing, listen to music. Don't hear it, listen to it. When you're listening to music, how long are the note lengths? What's the groove like? What's the texture? Victor Wooten talks about this a lot in his camps. Everyone goes, get to the...
Yeah.
And he emphasizes that more than notes. If you look at his 10-point camp thing, he only gets to playing notes last. He's talking about feeling, texture, timbre, phrasing, all of those things that make music music. Because everyone can play the intro to Layla, but everyone plays it like Clapton does.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Okay, great advice. Great advice.
Thank you for having
Jason,
me.
we're out of time.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it. Guys, thank you. Thanks for watching. And that's all for now. Cheers.